The candlelight flickered between us, casting long, twisting shadows over the untouched anniversary cake. 10 years, a decade of shared mornings, whispered promises, tangled sheets, a lifetime of love, or so I had believed. But love wasn't enough anymore. Not when I felt like a ghost in my own marriage. Not when every conversation had become a polite exchange between strangers. Not when Daniel's touch felt like obligation instead of desire. I took a slow sip of wine, letting the bitterness coat my tongue before setting the glass down with deliberate precision. The ruby liquid swirled, clinging to the crystal like blood. This is it. I had practiced the words in the mirror, in the shower, in the car, everywhere but in front of him, until now. Daniel sat across from me, his face half hidden in the dim light. He had always been handsome in that quiet, unassuming way, sharp jawline, dark eyes that saw too much, lips that rarely smiled, but when they did, it was devastating. Tonight, though, his expression was unreadable. Coward, I chastised myself. Just say it. I took a breath. I've decided something. His fingers, which had been tracing the stem of his wine glass, stilled, but he didn't look up. Our marriage is open now. Silence. Not the stunned kind, not the angry kind, just silence. The kind that made my pulse thud in my ears. I waited for the outburst, the accusations, the hurt. Instead, Daniel leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly beneath him. His gaze lifted to mine, and for the first time in years, I couldn't decipher what was behind those dark eyes. A beat, then another. "If that's what you want," he said, his voice smooth, unaffected. He raised his glass in a mock toast, the crystal catching the candlelight like a warning. Then he took a slow, deliberate sip, his eyes never leaving mine. That was it. No fight, no pleading, no slammed doors or shattered glass. Just acceptance. I should have been relieved. I was relieved, wasn't I? But as I watched him, something cold and slick coiled in my stomach. Because Daniel never just accepted things. Not when his boss tried to pass him over for a promotion. Not when his brother betrayed him. Not when life handed him anything less than exactly what he wanted. He fought. And yet here he was, sitting across from me, calm as death. A shiver traced my spine. That's when I realized this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And Daniel didn't lose. He destroyed. The first time I brought someone home, the house felt different. It wasn't just the absence of Daniel. It was the way the air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The usual hum of the refrigerator was too loud. The creak of the floorboards beneath my feet sounded like warnings. I had expected resistance, a fight, a slammed door, anything but this silence. But Daniel was gone, really gone. Not just out for the night, vanished. His side of the closet was empty, hangers dangling like broken bones. His toothbrush was missing from the holder, leaving mine standing alone like a pathetic monument to a dead marriage. His favorite coffee mug, the one I'd bought him on our honeymoon, wasn't in the dishwasher or the cabinet. It was just gone. Not just out for the night, vanished. His side of the closet was empty, hangers dangling like broken bones. His toothbrush was missing from the holder, leaving mine standing alone like a pathetic monument to a dead marriage. His favorite coffee mug, the one I'd bought him on our honeymoon, wasn't in the dishwasher or the cabinet. It was just gone. No note, no text, no voicemail dripping with sarcasm or rage, just silence. I told myself it didn't matter. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? Freedom. The right to come home with whoever I pleased, to laugh too loud in my bedroom, to forget the weight of vows that had started to feel like chains. So why did the emptiness of the house feel so suffocating? I drank too much that night. Not enough to blur the guilt, but enough to make the edges softer, to make the stranger in my bed seem less like a betrayal and more like a victory. When I woke the next morning, the other side of the bed was empty, just like Daniel's. The sheets were cold. The only evidence of the night before was the lingering scent of unfamiliar cologne and a headache pounding behind my eyes. I stumbled into the kitchen, reaching blindly for the aspirin in the cabinet. That's when I saw it. A single envelope on the counter. No, my breath caught. It hadn't been there last night. I would have noticed. I reached for it with trembling fingers. It was crisp, expensive, the kind Daniel used for important documents. My name was written on the front in his precise, elegant handwriting. Inside, there was no letter, no angry rant, just a photograph, me sleeping naked. The angle was unmistakable, taken from the doorway of our bedroom. The dim light from the hallway spilled across the bed, illuminating my bare shoulder, the curve of my hip, the tousled sheets. My stomach lurched. I flipped the photo over. Written on the back in that same meticulous script, "Did you really think I wouldn't watch?" The room spun. I dropped the photo like it had burned me, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He was here, last night, while I whirled around, my heart hammering against my ribs. The house was silent, still, but I could feel him, watching, waiting. And I knew, with a sickening certainty, that this wasn't a warning. It was the first cut, and Daniel wasn't done. The photos kept coming, not just in envelopes anymore. They arrived like ghosts, appearing where they shouldn't, when I least expected them. I found the first one tucked into the visor of my car, the morning after a date. A grainy shot of me laughing in a dimly lit restaurant, my hand resting on another man's wrist. The timestamp in the corner showed it had been taken just 2 hours earlier. Watching. The second photo surfaced at the gym, slipped into the pocket of my workout bag. This one was worse. A close-up of me mid-shower, steam curling around my bare skin, taken through the fogged glass of my own bathroom. My hands shook as I ripped it to pieces. I changed the locks that afternoon, hired a security company to install cameras at every entrance, bought new phones, new laptops, anything that could be hacked. None of it mattered, because Daniel was always one step ahead. The cameras malfunctioned whenever something happened. The new locks didn't stop the envelopes from appearing on my pillow. The photos kept coming, each one more invasive than the last. Me at the grocery store, me getting into my car, me half-dressed in my bedroom, bathed in moonlight. But the photos weren't the worst part. The email started 3 weeks after the first envelope. The subject line was simple. Remember? No signature, no return address, but I didn't need one. I knew. The attachment took forever to load. When it finally played, the sound hit me first. My own laughter, bright and unguarded. The way I used to laugh before the silence between us grew too heavy. Then the video appeared. Us, our first anniversary, the cabin by the lake. Daniel's hands tangled in my hair, my head thrown back in joy, the sheets a mess beneath us. We looked happy. We looked in love. The video cut abruptly to black, then a single line of text. You said forever. I slammed the laptop shut, but the next email came anyway. And the one after that. Each one a memory weaponized. Our wedding day. The night we found out we were pregnant, before the miscarriage, before the grief that started the slow rot between us. The time we got caught in the rain and made love on the living room floor. Every attachment ended the same way, with those damning words, "Forever is a long time, darling." I stopped sleeping, stopped eating, started checking every shadow, every reflection, every parked car on the street. Because Daniel wasn't just watching. He was reminding me of every promise I'd broken, every vow I'd betrayed. And the worst part, he wasn't wrong.
The tires crunched over gravel as I pulled up to the cabin, the headlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. This was where it had begun. Where, 10 years ago on our first anniversary, Daniel had carried me over the threshold, whispering promises against my skin. Now, smoke curled from the chimney. He was here. I killed the engine, my fingers numb around the keys. For a moment I just sat there, staring at the flickering glow behind the curtains. The last time I'd seen him was that night at the restaurant, when I'd dropped my bomb and he'd sipped his wine like I'd told him it might rain tomorrow. Now, the weight of every photo, every email, every violated moment pressed against my ribs. I stepped out into the cold. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. The scent of burning cedar hit me first, then the faintest hint of his cologne. Something spicy and expensive. The kind I'd bought him every Christmas until I stopped caring. Then I saw him. Daniel stood by the fireplace, silhouetted against the flames. He held something in his hands, a photo album, its leather cover worn from years of touch. Our wedding album. "You kept the key under the rock," he said without turning. "Just like always." My throat tightened. "You knew I'd come." Finally, he looked at me. The firelight carved shadows under his cheekbones made his eyes look black. "I counted on it." He turned a page. Our honeymoon. Greece. Me laughing in a white bikini, his arms slung around my waist. "Why?" The word cracked. Daniel smiled then, the first real, unguarded expression I'd seen since that night at the restaurant. It didn't reach his eyes. Why what, Claire? Why the photos, the emails, or why did you force my hand? You stalked me. You humiliated me. His voice stayed soft, almost conversational as he set the album aside. Did you think I wouldn't notice the perfume, the late nights, the way you'd shower the second you got home? I took a step back. That's why you did all this? Because I wanted freedom? He laughed, a hollow sound. You had freedom. You had me. But you wanted to play games. He reached into his pocket and tossed something onto the coffee table. My breath caught. A USB drive. Go ahead, he said. Take a look. I didn't move. Daniel sighed and walked to the laptop on the desk. The screen flared to life, and a moment later the footage appeared. Security camera angles, timestamps, clear shots of every man I'd brought home. My stomach lurched. You filmed us? I protected my assets. He tapped a key and the screen split, showing bank statements, property deeds. Prenup still holds, Claire. Infidelity voids your claim to everything. The room tilted. You're suing me? Not suing. He closed the laptop with a quiet click. Exposing. Another USB joined the first on the table. This one had a label. For HR. For Mom. For everyone. My knees buckled. I caught myself on the armchair. You wouldn't. Daniel moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You made one mistake, darling. His fingers brushed my cheek. The first time he'd touched me in months. You forgot who you married. I jerked away. I'll fight you. With what? He gestured to the USBs. You have no money, no reputation, and thanks to your little adventures, no allies. His smile returned. You broke the rules, now? The fire popped, sending sparks up the chimney. I break you.
The cabin door slammed behind me as I stumbled into the freezing night. My breath came in ragged gasps, crystallizing in the air like the fragile remains of my marriage. The gravel bit into my bare feet. I hadn't even stopped to put on shoes. He can't do this. He wouldn't. But the USB drives burned in my pocket like live coals. I collapsed against my car, the metal searing my skin through the thin silk of my dress. The same dress I'd worn for our anniversary dinner when I dropped the bomb. The same dress I'd imagined him tearing off me that night in furious passion. Instead, he'd waited, planned, calculated. My hands shook as I fumbled with the car door. The engine roared to life, but I didn't pull away, just sat there, staring at the cabin's glowing windows through a haze of tears. Flashback. 3 years earlier. Forever, Claire. Daniel's lips moved against my temple as we slow danced in this very cabin. No matter what, I'd laughed, drunk on love and expensive champagne. What could possibly break us? His hands tightened on my waist. Only you. A sharp rap on my window made me scream. Daniel stood there, backlit by the cabin's glow, holding out my coat like some twisted gentleman. I cracked the window an inch. Cold air rushed in. You'll freeze, he said. So fucking reasonable. Go to hell. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Already there, darling. Been there since you first spread your legs for... What was his name? Mark? Michael? The USB drives grew heavier. What do you want, Daniel? You want me to beg? My voice broke. Fine, I'm begging. Please don't. Too late. He dropped the coat on the hood. The first email goes out at midnight. I glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes. 13 minutes until my mother saw those videos. Until my boss received that file. Until everyone from my college friends to my dry cleaner knew exactly what kind of whore I was. The sob tore from my throat before I could stop it. I loved you. Daniel's mask slipped then, just for a second. A muscle twitched in his jaw. His knuckles whitened where they gripped the car. You had a funny way of showing it. He straightened, the mask sliding back into place. Drive safe, Claire. The roads are icy. As I peeled out of the driveway, the last thing I saw in my rearview mirror was Daniel standing motionless in the falling snow, watching me run like he'd known I would all along. 2 hours later. My phone buzzed incessantly on the passenger seat. Mom, work, unknown numbers. The emails had started going out. I pulled over on a deserted stretch of highway, the kind of place where no one would hear you scream. The USB drive felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. With trembling hands, I plugged it into my laptop. The video loaded instantly. Not security footage, not a compilation of my sins. Just Daniel, sitting at his kitchen table, speaking directly to the camera. If you're watching this, Claire, it means you finally understand the rules. He sipped his whiskey, the ice clinking. But here's something you don't know. I didn't send the files. A cold worse than the winter night seeped into my bones. I gave you a choice. You could have come home, could have gotten on your knees and apologized properly. His smile turned vicious. Instead, you ran. So now? The screen cut to a live feed of my empty apartment, then my office, then my mother's house. Now the game changes. The video ended. At exactly midnight, my phone lit up with a single text from an unknown number. Run faster next time. I threw open the car door and vomited onto the frozen asphalt. Because I finally understood. This wasn't about revenge. It was about ownership. And Daniel would rather destroy me than let me go. The police found me 3 days later. I was walking barefoot along the highway, my once elegant anniversary dress torn and streaked with dirt. My feet left faint smears of blood on the asphalt. The officers told me later they thought I was a ghost at first, a pale, broken figure materializing in their headlights. Ma'am? The younger cop approached cautiously, his hand hovering near his sidearm. Are you hurt? The words wouldn't come. My throat was raw from screaming, my lips cracked from dehydration. When I opened my mouth, all that emerged was a broken sound, something between a laugh and a sob. The older officer wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. It smelled like stale coffee and police station. Who did this to you? That's when the hysterics hit. Great gasping laughs that shook my entire body until tears streamed down my face. The officers exchanged glances as I doubled over, clutching my stomach, because they'd never find him. Daniel was too smart for that. The cabin had been spotless when I fled, not a single fingerprint, not a strand of hair. The USB drives, untraceable burners, the emails, routed through servers in countries that didn't exist. The younger cop persisted. Is your husband dangerous? I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, tasting salt and blood. You don't understand, I whispered. He doesn't want to kill me. I let the blanket slip enough to show the marks on my wrist, not bruises, but words tattooed in elegant script, his handwriting, property of Daniel Avery. The officers recoiled. The younger one reached for his radio. They tell me I'm safe now. The doctors in the psychiatric ward say it with practiced smiles as they adjust my medication. The lawyers assure me the restraining order will keep me protected. My mother whispers it when she visits, her eyes darting to the door every 30 seconds. They're all wrong. Because sometimes when the night is quiet and the drugs aren't quite working, I feel it. The whisper of breath on the back of my neck. The faint scent of that expensive cologne. The weight of a gaze I know better than my own reflection. Last Tuesday I woke to find fresh ink on my other wrist. Just 2 words. Miss me? The security footage showed nothing. The motion detectors never triggered. The nurses swore no one entered my room. But I know the truth. Open marriages don't end, darling. They just evolve. And as I sit here in this sterile room, tracing the new tattoo with trembling fingers, I can feel him smiling from the shadows, always watching, never letting go,